Hey everybody, Syntax77 here, and today I'm going to be doing a little follow-up video for a piece of gear I already did a full look at, the Katadyn BeFree water filtration system. Now, like I said, if you've landed on this video because you were looking for an in-depth look at that filter, probably check that video out instead, or I would say at least first, and then you can revisit this one. Now, if you already saw that one or you already know about the filter, my main goal today is to talk about my little upgrade that I did for this, which is kind of two things. A larger capacity water storage bag for the Katadyn BeFree system, as well as configuring it as a gravity filter system. And that's why this tube is here that you see, and the larger bag beneath it. In that first video, I did mention, hey, Katadyn, it doesn't look like you're selling any bigger bags for this other than this 0.6 liter bag that comes with the system. It'd be really cool if you guys made some larger options, or hey, maybe third-party vendors out there, you could jump on board and make some sort of bag that works with it. Well, after I edited that video, but before I had even posted it, I did a little more research, which apparently was kind of lackluster in the first place, and I did find out that there is an option out there. And then when I did post a video, a lot of the viewers chimed in and told me to look this way as well. It's called the HydraPak Seeker. HydraPak is the brand. Seeker is the type of water vessel. This particular one's a 2 liter. They also have a 3 liter option available as well. Kind of embarrassing to admit, but on this Katadyn original that comes with this smaller bag, all I had to do was flip it over, and I would have seen that light blue writing right there that says, designed and manufactured by HydraPak. Oops. At least slightly in my defense, there's no real reference on the Katadyn site or product description that says, hey, you can get larger bags from HydraPak. Maybe because they want to have their own kind of branded one down the line. I don't know. But either way, if the threads are the same, and that's the important part, because you'll see here, this baby is wide mouthed, as I went over in the video. Not as wide as, say, your standard Nalgene, but definitely larger than a standard, say, soda bottle, etc. In fact, it is 42 millimeters. That's the golden number. If you can find a water vessel that is a 42 millimeter thread, you'll be good to go. Now, just a heads up, I've seen out there 43 millimeters kind of floated around as the size of the threads on these BeFree systems. I think it may have been traced back to a listing that REI did, but either way, it is 42 millimeters. How do I know that? Well, it does say there, 42 millimeter flat screw cap. And also, if you don't trust me or the packaging, maybe you'll trust a pair of calipers set to 42 millimeter. And it fits those threads exactly. So there it is. 42 is the number. So now that we have that out of the way, let's take a look at the actual HydraPak, and I'll put this gravity tube out of the way for a moment. HydraPak comes with a stuff sack, and I put my own piece of cord on there for hanging it from a tree in gravity mode, but since we're gonna weigh this stuff, and some of you are real gram weenies, let's take that off. Now I have my stuff sack kind of lark's headed onto one of the attachment points on the bag, but let's take it off right now as well. We can weigh all the separate components, and then we'll talk about how this worked for me. There we go. And speaking about working for me, yes, this system did work for me just fine as both a gravity filter as well as a squeeze filter, so don't worry about that. I did run into some little complications that ended up not being a fault of the Katadyn, but I'm going to point them out for you because it may help some of you in the future. But yes, this bag does work, so if you're interested, keep watching. A few things I like about the HydraPak Seeker. Well, it's got those measurements on there. That is cool. It is a 2 liter, remember, bag, this one right here. And the attachment points that I just kind of touched on. You got one here and here, 2 on this side at either end, as well as this guy up top. All that same style, but it gives you the option. You could run a line between here and one of the back ones, or you could just have one here. In my case, I went with the back corner with a loop on it so I can just hang it from a branch to work in gravity mode. Pop the cap off there. So it comes with the cap. But what we'll be doing is replacing that cap with the Katadyn BeFree filter insert. Now, some of you on the previous video made a good point, and that was that you could simply buy just the filter replacement cartridge, which is this whole head here that I just screwed in, and not even bother with buying the kit, which comes with this guy as well. Now, it's about $10 less if you do that. It's currently $40 for the kit with this bag, or just $30. You buy the filter replacement cartridge alone, and then pick up the Seeker bag for $20. It's about $20 for both the 2 liter and the 3 liter version of this from what I've seen. Kind of weird, but it is, and it'll cost you about an ounce more. So the choice is really yours. Money doesn't seem to be a factor there. And as you see, it screws in just fine. The one difference I did notice, and something to be careful of when you're using this, as mentioned on the warning that came with the BeFree filter, you don't want to grab it directly by the filter inside the body there because you might damage it. That's why on the actual BeFree bag, they have this kind of hardened bumper that goes down a little bit and allows you to get a nice purchase on there so you don't grab the actual filter. You're not going to be afforded that luxury on the Seeker, so just be aware of that. It is a little bit of extra reinforcement up top, but not quite the same grade, so it would be, if you're not paying attention, easy to grab it by the filter and potentially damage it. Other than that, the functioning on this is pretty much just the same. Now, I will point out, I took this out, Denali and I, we did a little trip to the woods to see how water would run through this. Now, at first, I was actually a little disappointed, and I thought I was going to have to come on here and tell you guys, uh-oh, this thing works great as a squeeze filter, but not quite so as a gravity. First things first, it just seemed to be going slow. Now, remember, I hooked it up using this tubing here. I hooked that up to it and ran it through, and at first it seemed fine, but then I noticed it was apparently taking on air, and it had inflated the dirty water bag with air almost to the same point as it was with water in terms of volume, and suddenly it was inflated like a balloon and there was no more for the rest of the water to go, and it only got about halfway done, about 1 liter out of 2 liters before it just stopped because of air pressure in the bag. Kind of strange. So then I said I'm going to try it just without being attached to the bag, just to try to narrow down what the problem was here. Well, it was still going really slow, but on top of that, I noticed air bubbles, tons of air bubbles in the line. Now, what could be going on here? Was it the fault of the filter? Well, I had introduced a bunch of variables, so that wouldn't really be too fair for me to jump right to that conclusion, although I kind of did. But upon further inspection, I took a look at my line. Now, this is just some standard 1/4-inch tubing. You can get at the hardware store or on Dutchware like I did, or probably even Amazon, anywhere really, hooked up to this thread, which is specifically an adapter for the Sawyer. Maybe you can find something else out there, but I got this on Dutchware as well. They're also on Amazon. I'll put product links for all this stuff in the description for those of you interested. But when I was looking at this closer, I realized, you see that white disc there? Like a kind of spongy material? Well, it was missing from the side that connected to the Katadyn filter, which, just take off the top there, and you can see how the Katadyn has those threads on there, which are more the size of like a standard water bottle. Anyway, where that was connected, like that, it didn't have that little gasket. So it was sucking air through there just because of the siphon kind of action going through this tube, and it was slowing down the flow quite a bit because the air was competing with the water in the tube, and then also the air was filling the bag up like I mentioned. So once I swapped out for another one of these that had the proper gasket, everything worked fine, like a charm. Now, if this wasn't the fault of the Katadyn, why am I wasting your time telling you this?
I can't make any sense out of this.
This is the poorest class I've had in a long, long time. Most of you have no foundation at all.
Well, basically, just to point out, anytime you're doing one of these gravity-style systems where you're kind of going DIY with an already purpose-built product, such as this one, you're introducing variables, multiple variables that could throw things off, and ones that aren't necessarily intended to be used with the system. So just keep in mind when you're building these little systems out that things might not work as they seem, but after a little diligence, you'll probably get it working. Don't jump right to blaming the filter like I was tempted to do. And as you saw in those clips there with Denali and I using the filter, it's just a Sawyer Squeeze water bag that I hooked up via the tubing system to the HydraPak Seeker. Speaking of the Sawyer bags, which are pretty ubiquitous out there for those of you who've been into these backpacking squeeze type filters for a while, you might be wondering, what is the weight difference between these? This is a 2-liter water bag right here that I'm using. No need for me to upgrade that because the threading on this side was already the same, so why spend money on that? Plus, there is a little bit of a weight penalty for the Seeker. Let's take a look at the weights. And we have 2.5 ounces for the 2-liter with the cap on there. Doesn't include the stuff sack, if you'd like to know. Stuff sack is merely, let's call it 0.16 of an ounce. To be fair, let's just weigh the bags. 2.5 for the Seeker, and for the squeeze bag, 1.25 ounce. So you're looking at double the weight for the same amount of water volume by using the Seeker bag. Pros and cons, of course, are going to be, well, first off, one big pro is it's not going to work with this bag. And this one it does. It's one of our only options out there that I can find. And if you found one, feel free to throw it out there in the comment section. But that's just what it comes down to. Now, on top of that, I've had these bags fail before, usually at the corners right up here. I think I've had 2 so far over the years fail on me and start leaking, which is no good. This one seems a little more robust. It's part of the reason it's heavier. A big reason it's heavier is because this big old cap weighs a tremendous amount more than the little tiny water bottle caps do. On top of that, it is a thicker, rubbery type feeling material, and it also has those attachment points would probably add a little weight. I also want to point something else out to you guys, and that's the fact that both these are made by HydraPak, but this one that comes with the Katadyn is definitely thinner grade. Now that's good for being lightweight and it's in your pocket and everything, but it should be noted that with that weight penalty comes what seems to be a much more robust feeling thickness of material. In fact, let's try a little experiment. If I take the BeFree, and there's no way for me to measure one layer, but let's just squeeze in without popping my bag here. I'm not going to go too hard, but that's at 0.43 millimeters. And if I go to the Seeker, squeeze in, you know, this isn't super scientific, but until I feel about the same amount of pressure, it's at 0.65 millimeters. So it's definitely a thicker grade. Thank you, calipers, for solving another argument. Definitely a thicker grade material than the standard bag that comes with the system, which is cool because with the gravity system, I would say there's going to be more chance that you're kicking this thing around on the ground compared to this, which is probably always going to be stuffed in a pocket somewhere or readily being drank. So that's something to be said. Now, some of you might be wondering how long it took to filter 2 liters of water in the Seeker bag once I got it working properly. Well, I got 2 liters through here, and I would say safely 2 minutes and 22 seconds. And that may actually be a few seconds more than it really took because it's kind of hard to tell when this thing's exactly empty compared to a water bottle. So I did give it a couple seconds until it was definitely empty, but I'd say under 2.5 minutes, no problem. Now I should point out, even though I did that testing out in the field in the stream there, the time I just mentioned, the 2 minutes and 22 seconds, was from tap water. And I think really that should be kind of the baseline for testing these filters, because one thing I've learned over the years using the Sawyer Squeezes and other Katadyn pumps, what's in the water is going to slow it down. Say something like up in Maine with particularly mossy water seems to be a real culprit. It's going to be a lot different than say when we're somewhere else with just clearer water kind of flowing over hard rocks instead of moss and whatnot. I would say you're going to see a difference. So I think honestly a good baseline for these filters is the tap water, and luckily most guys seem to just test these in their houses, so you can compare those numbers that way. Speaking of which, I didn't test how fast it goes through here squeeze style, because I tell you what, with other filters like the Sawyer Squeeze, I don't notice a huge amount of difference between the flow rate when I'm squeezing versus gravity. There is a difference, but it's not huge. This guy squeezes so fast, you know what? Let's get 2 liters of water and see how fast I can just squeeze it through. All right, I'm back. Now, one thing I just noticed when filling this up was that I actually filled it to the brim, which is a little more than 2,000 milliliters or 2 liters. But to be fair, that's what I did last time, so that'll be my comparison. But that 2 minutes and 20 seconds apparently was for a little more than 2 liters, assuming that these numbers are correct. But we're just going with a full bag, so let's compare. And go. I'm going moderate squeeze force here. I'm not going crazy. I don't want to burst the bag, but I'm squeezing it pretty good within a comfortable range of not causing any damage. All right, we're down to almost empty at 54 seconds and a few more squeezes to be safe. 1 minute and 3 seconds, I think. Something like that. Squeezed pretty much dry in a minute, let's say, instead of close to 2.5. Yeah, I mean, based on that, this guy goes so fast, might not even bother with gravity filter, although it does work well with the tubing. This particular tubing here, just if you were wondering about weights for the whole system, the caps are, I think, a ½ ounce total. They're a 1/4 ounce a piece, or 7 grams a piece. This tubing is a ½ ounce per foot, or 14 grams per foot. I have 2 foot length here. So this right here is costing me 1.5 ounces. If you're really a gram counter, that's probably worth thinking about just bringing this, but honestly, I'm not too worried about that. A gravity system is a group trip thing for me, and you're sharing gear anyway. I don't get as crazy. When I solo, I'm not going to bother with this. I'm going to bring the original, because this plus the filter is under 2 ounces, and it's plenty of water. And we just did 2 liters in a minute. You can do this ½ liter thing in a snap. So this will be my solo gear. This will be my group thing. But after seeing that squeeze test, I don't know, it might just be bringing a 2 liter bottle and just the Sawyer Squeeze. And then I've got myself backup unfiltered water, and I can just dump it into this and squeeze as necessary. So yeah, I don't know, but you got options. Now, I did get all my stuff wet, so I was going to show you guys the total weight of my gravity system. But you know what? Most of the time, after your first filtration session, you're going to be carrying this stuff slightly damp anyway. So this will be a wet weight, I guess, for you guys, for my gravity system. Now, I should also mention the cap that comes with it, you wouldn't really need to bring that if you were really trying to shave weight, because honestly, you're always going to have the filter attached to it. So I'm going to just wait with that. Actually, let's pop this on there and zero it. Filter in the bag, I'm at 4 ounces. Throw in my cap and tubing. Puts me at 5.5-ish ounces. Throw in the clean water bag and 7 ounces wet for the gravity system. Not bad. Or, like I said, just carry this by itself and you're running 4 ounces, which is the same weight as my previous gravity system with the Sawyer Squeeze, and it runs super fast. So I think I just discovered that I'm just going to be carrying this on group trips and some extra 2-liter bags. There you have it. A quick look and update on the Katadyn BeFree system, an option for more water storage. Remember, there's a 3-liter version available as well. And from what I can see, it's about 1 ounce more. So if you want a little more, especially seeing how fast I squeeze that 2 liters through, I bet you I could fully filter the 3-liter version in about 1 minute and 40 seconds, if not 1.5 minutes. Pretty cool just by squeezing it. And then, of course, if you want to go gravity, you can. And one other point, this tubing, like I said, every 6 inches of tubing is 1/4 ounce or 7-ish grams. So you could have a really short one on there if you wanted to. You've certainly got options. All right, I think that covers it. The Katadyn BeFree water filtration system in conjunction with the HydraPak Seeker water bag. Till next time, I'm Syntax77. Have fun out there.